Hey, welcome into Dom Time. Thanks very much for joining us tonight. New Jersey is one of many states, there's a whole array of them, some have already done it, that are proposing changes in the law. Our guests tonight are differing a little bit on what this would mean about your rights and your choices in your final days. Joining us are Ann Studholme. Ann is an attorney and someone whose client, not dead yet, has been intimately involved in this. And David C. Levin is Executive Director of Compassion and Choices of New York. Now, let me try to summarize for viewers what I heard during the break and what we heard going away. And there are two big issues here, David. I'll put this on you. I think Ann's right. There is a fear of pain, but as I understand it, research indicates in the greater majority of cases, we've dealt with that. But the way that we may deal with it, to some people may be feeling undignified, would be the word. In other words, you would be unconscious, you wouldn't be feeling this, or you would be, quote, doped up during this period of time. And some people may feel that's an undignified situation. Is that what you're about here? Would you acknowledge that the pain issue is not really the issue, it's the dignity issue here?
Pain is not really the issue. What the issue is the ability of an individual to make a choice for him or herself. And it's very, I think, both insulting and demeaning to people who are terminally ill to suggest that they are unable to make a decision for themselves to ask for prescribed medicines which they can take or not take at the time and place of their choosing. Everybody should have this right if they are terminally ill and mentally competent. And very few people exercise the right.
Well,
in fact,
it's only a very about one. From my perspective, I've seen though. I am afraid of this emotional push toward why not end it, the sense the messages we're giving, you have no worth, and I share why I think some of these disabled groups feel that, and I think there's a real message. There's also a cost factor here.
But you know what? The concern was legitimate before the Oregon law was enacted and went into effect, and we now have 15 years of data which shows that the law has worked just as it was intended.
Let me ask you, Ann, is that true with Oregon and these other states where we have data?
Oregon has the highest level of elder suicide in the country. I don't think that anyone can say that carving out an exception to the criminalization of assisting suicide for people who have a diagnosis that within 6 months they may die of whatever disease they're suffering from, but who don't have to fear pain, who are fearing loss of autonomy, they are fearing being a burden, and they're fearing disability. They're feeling loss of, to carve that out for them and to say, oh, the fact that that will feed into society's devaluing of the disabled, that will not have anything to do with the fact that we don't provide the ability for people to live in their own home once they become disabled. We do a little bit of home care, but very, very, very little. We have all sorts of, people fear being disabled, and they fear it for a reason. They fear it because of the way society treats them. You're a burden. You're useless, and this feeds that.
Well, in fact, only about 40% of those who actually exercise their right to use the law in Oregon are concerned about being a burden. 90% are concerned about their loss of autonomy and the loss of their ability to continue to enjoy activities which made life worth living for them. So those are the major factors. And people are getting great end-of-life care in Oregon. 90% are actually enrolled in hospice at the time that they die.
90% of the people who choose this. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised. David will tell you the people who choose this tend to be male, white, college educated, higher income, excellent insurance.
Assisted suicide?
Choose assisted suicide. Excellent insurance and in hospice.
Why would they choose that?
Well, it's not just men. It's pretty evenly divided between men and women, but it does. It's primarily people who are somewhat educated. That is true, but it doesn't make a difference. It's available to anybody who decides for themselves, and that's what we're talking about, the ability for people to decide for themselves what they want or don't want at the end of their life.
And I'll come back to the question I asked you to. I realize it's a rare case, a patient who can't take these pills themselves. They're disabled, ALLs, something of that nature. Would you support the physician then or somebody being able to assist what is their will to take these life-ending drugs?
We don't support that. We think that people have to be terminally ill and have to be able to self-administer. And we draw bright lines all the time when it comes to many things, and this is a reasonable bright line to draw.
We drew one, someone asked John Bersacelli, they said, why 6 months? Everybody talks about their dying days, their dying days. People have the idea of someone who is literally dying. John has said, I think David has said, they don't want to die, but they are dying. With a diagnosis of 6 months, you can easily live a year. I mean, that's well within the huge lump of statistics.
Ann is absolutely correct. However, if you look at those who have actually used the law, it's mostly people who are within weeks or a month or two of dying. It's not people at the outside end.
Well,
and the reason is because they give us a great deal of thought.
I'll bring the name into the conversation, not unfair to you, because you're well-intentioned in this, without a doubt. I was on, when I started in talk radio, and I remember we got the report, it was late at night, about Dr. Kevorkian.
Yes.
And, you know, I see this lunatic out there. I don't see a compassionate individual at all. And again, I come back to, there's real cost to end of life. And can you see this pressure? Why, if you only have 6 months to live, why count down to 1 month? Why not do it now? You're a burden.
But they're not a burden, and most people don't think that they're a burden, and that's not the issue again. The issue is loss of autonomy. The issue is loss of the enjoyment of activities which made life worthwhile. So each individual has to decide for him or herself at what point in time they are ready to go. And for some of us, we can suffer until the very end. And that's great, and we support that. What we simply support at Compassionate Choices and other organizations that are supporting this bill in New Jersey, because we know how well the law has worked in Oregon, is simply for people to make that choice for themselves.
For viewers here in New Jersey and Pennsylvania, does this law differ in any way than Oregon?
It's almost identical.
Would you agree
It's very close. The thing is that they're tailored to carve an exception out from the criminalization of assisting suicide.
Right.
Anyone can kill themselves. What this does is says, if a patient asks a doctor, don't give me palliative sedation. I want that dose now. I want to keep it in my medicine cabinet. And under this bill, I'm prohibited from taking it in public. There's very little oversight.
Why the prohibition of taking it in public?
Because most people die in their own homes, and that's exactly what's happened in Oregon. They die in their own homes with family support. Right. This is something which is openly discussed with family members and loved ones.
If this is also dignified, compassionate, etc., why that prohibition, do you think?
I don't know why there's a prohibition, and I don't think it really matters. But why do it in public?
Why
does
it require the falsification of the death certificate? The death certificate is required to list the underlying disease, not suicide. It's required to lie in the death certificate. Why is that?
It's suicide?
It's not suicide. No, it's absolutely not suicide. Suicides occur when people are depressed and they could continue to live, and they act impulsively without speaking with other people. This happens when for people who are actually empowered by speaking with their loved ones, their physician, their chaplain, and ultimately making a decision. They have to make 3 requests. This isn't an impulsive decision. It's not a decision made by people who are depressed. This is totally different than suicide.
Okay.
This is only a question of how people are going to die, not whether they're going to die.
2 great guests tonight. We'd love to include you with your phone calls here on Dom Time. Do you want this in New Jersey? Do you want it in Pennsylvania? Would you like to see it in more of the states in our viewing area? Your call's coming up, and more with our guest on Dom Time.